Hi, my name is Soheila Rostami. I'm an oculofacial plastic surgeon and the fellowship director at Sanctuary Cosmetic Center.
I'm Dr. Choi. I'm Dr. Rostami's fellow for the year.
And I'm so proud of having you here. So this past Friday, we did 5 cases. So we want to discuss those cases. The first case was upper eyelid blepharoplasty with mullerectomy. Can you tell me what was the finding and why did we decide to do those?
So the patient had ptosis of the right eyelid, I believe. And so with that, we can correct about 1 to 2 millimeters with the mullerectomy. Blepharoplasty is not the treatment for eyelid ptosis, but we did a blepharoplasty to treat dermatochalasis, which is excess skin.
So when we're talking about the eyelid ptosis or blepharoptosis, what do we consider? We consider MRD1. What is MRD1? Everybody talks about that. What is that? What it means?
MRD1 is the distance, I believe, from the mid-pupil
from the light reflex when they're looking straight at the light. So right now, probably I have it. So when I look straight ahead to the limbus or to the lid crease. So it's supposed to be the lid crease should sit 1 millimeter below the superior limbus. What is superior limbus? The color part of our eye. That is the iris, the total part of the iris. That superior part where the cornea and iris get together is called limbus. So superior limbus, eyelid should sit about 1 millimeter below that. So the light to the superior lid crease is the MRD, is the distance between that.
The eyelid margin.
Yes. So the eyelid margin or the superior eyelid where it sits, that distance is called MRD, which is marginal distance to the light. So that should be normally between 2.5 to 3 millimeter or more than that. Now, there is eyelid retraction. We're going to discuss that because we did repair eyelid retraction as well. So anything above that, when it goes beyond the limbus, that's called the eyelid retraction. Means that the eyelid is opening too much and they have that surprise look. So when patients come in, we have to make sure documenting those things. And there is a way to distinguish if they do respond to mullerectomy. And that is when we put the phenylephrine drop to evaluate the response of Mueller muscle, which is autonomic nervous system, to the phenylephrine, which is the autonomic agonist.
Alpha agonist.
Yes. So we wanted to make sure that it responds. And if it responds, then the mullerectomy is going to help us to whatever level that the patient responded to the drug. Now, there are different ways to decide if the individual needs to have different length of the Mueller removed. Now, there are certain surgeons, and I believe I am one of them, that if you take part of the tarsus along with the Mueller, you can get more than 2-3 millimeter. You can get up to 4 or 5 millimeter of ptosis repair. So it can be a very strong surgery for the patients with ptosis that the surgeon can use. So dermatochalasis is the definition of excess skin. So there are two different things. Now, can you tell me how do you evaluate the eyebrow ptosis?
Eyebrow ptosis, whether you're, so it depends on the gender. So male, your eyebrow should sit kind of at or below the superior orbital rim. And if you're female, then it should sit above the superior orbital rim.
Well, I would say that
10 millimeters.
About 7 to 10.
7 to 10 between
that's
the
for Caucasian eyebrow. So ethnicity plays a lot of role in how the eyebrow shape and form is. the same as the eyelid. So a lot of ethnic appearance has a lot to do with how the orbit looks, whether the relationship from the eyebrow to the eyes, the way the upper eyelid sits, the epicanthal fold, telecanthus distance. All of these are really important in how the ethnicity appears. Now, a lot of times it's so important to remember those things and discuss these things with your patient, because we forget that upper eyelid and eyebrow, it can really change people's ethnicity. You can do double eyelid on a patient that is Asian and completely change their appearance, and they may not like it. So you have to discuss these sort of things with the patient and make sure they understand that that would make them different. And if they don't want that, then you have to make sure to keep those differences. Now, we were talking about the eyebrow. The eyebrow female is usually the lateral flare is there, so it's not a straight line. Males, majority are very straight, and they are above the rim. And still, they're above the rim, but they're few millimeter above the rim, maybe 2 or 3 millimeter above the rim. But they don't have the arching appearance as the female do. The female majority have that arching, but I've noticed Asians don't have as much arching as the Caucasians do. And so you have to think about these things. You have to make sure you explain that when you're trying to do eyebrow ptosis repair. And you have to bring it to their attention. Do you want to have more of a flare on the lateral side of your eyebrow? And for the females, it's between 7 to 10 millimeter. So some people want more flare, some people want the less. So these are very much discussion that has to happen between the cosmetic surgeon and the patient that is seeking your advice.
I think also what's important when you're examining a patient is if you observe their frontalis muscle overcompensating to keep their brows up, then that's a good indicator that they have brow ptosis. Yeah.
Or eyelid ptosis, both of them. It could be eyelid ptosis that we holding our eyelids up to be able to see, or it could be eyebrow ptosis. So you cannot distinguish it by those lines, but yes, definitely. And as we get older, we become more unconsciously lifting our eyebrows to compensate for that. So that is also very important to make sure and bring it to the patient's attention, because it's very unconscious that they're holding their eyebrows up. So they may not even recognize that they're doing it. So you have to make sure to bring it to their attention. A lot of times, as we get older and we get our neurotoxins, that's one of the things that brings out the dermatochalasis. Because of the dermatochalasis, it's laying on their lashes, so it's very heavy and it causes ptosis for them. So for them to be more comfortable, they hold their eyebrows up to not to let that heavy skin sitting on the lashes and holding the eyelid down and causing pseudotosis. So a lot of times pseudotosis fixed by holding your eyebrows up. So these are very important. We discussed these things. So now let's go to the second one. What was our second case?
I think our second case
was the mullerectomy.
Was the myectomy?
Yes.
Okay. So the second case was interesting because it was his right eye. Yes. And he has a history of thyroid eye disease. And so he has issues with eyelid retraction. Correct. So it was kind of asymmetric, and the right side was much more retracted than the left side.
Correct. So a lot of times patients say that this is related to my thyroid disease, but if they don't have symptoms, usually the insurance will not consider this a covered benefit. Our patient did have symptoms. They really had severe dry eyes, so we could say that the insurance should cover it. But for majority of patients, a mild retraction of the eyelid is not a covered benefit. So there could be patients coming to seek the cosmetic surgeon's advice and their skills to have that retraction repaired. And to test it, if they do respond well to mullerectomy, is by giving them 1 to 2 units of neuromodulator. Put a couple of units, 1 to 2 units, and we revert the eyelid. We put it right at the superior tarsal border subconjunctivally. And we bring them back a week or 10 days later, and we look at the eyelid. And if they have responded well, that means that mullerectomy is going to work for them.
Okay.
So that's one, and it's a very simple. At the same time, sometimes if it's more than 2-3 millimeter, those are definitely patients that are going to be medically necessary. Then you need to put a spacer, and the spacers, that would be more complicated for more of an oculofacial plastic surgeon. But for cosmetic surgeons, is an easy procedure, makes the patient very happy, and they're not like deer in a headlight. So it will make them much more self-conscious. And since the insurance is not covering it, make them feel much better. And you can offer that to your patients. Okay, what was our third case?
Our third case, let's see, that was in the clinic. It was a unilateral Entropion repair.
Correct. The Entropion repair, and we did have another mullerectomy for ptosis, bilateral ptosis, but we already discussed it, so we're not going to discuss that. But for the Entropion, can you explain what is Entropion?
So Entropion is basically where the lower lid lash margin is kind of involuted.
Yes.
And
turn in, and it causes a lot of irritation. Why? Because the lashes are rubbing against the cornea. Now, this can happen if, God forbid, lower eyelid surgery has been done and the retractors have been violated. And so really, we need to work on that to fix the retractors, put it back to the where they belong, which is right at the inferior border of the tarsus. And to be able to accomplish this is a very easy procedure. It's called lateral tarsal strip. The lateral tarsal strip, to be able to perform, you have to do canthotomy, lateral canthotomy, with the lateral cantolysis, which is separating the inferior cruciate of the lateral canthal tendon, which is right in this area. So you actually detach the eyelid, you reattach the retractors, which is very easy. You just go through the conch, and you can see there is a white line and in the fornix of the eyelid, and you can bring that with the suture, with a simple suture, bring it to the inferior tarsal border, and then you reform your canthus, and you bring it positive, negative vector is very important here. In negative vectors, you can put it inside. In the positive vectors, you really have to put it high and outside the orbit, so to give you a much better appearance for the lower eyelid. So now we had another case, which was the ectropion, which was the opposite of the first one we did. So entropion, the eyelid turns in. Ectropion is when the eyelid turns out. Again, that could be secondary to lower eyelid blepharoplasty if they remove too much of the anterior lamella. Our patient developed it from the laser treatment that was aggressively done. So they had conjunctiva showing, and the conjunctiva turned into keratinized, and it was really a severe keratinization of the conjunctiva, much of the irritation from that. So again, we need to do the same lateral tarsal strip. But sometimes these patients need a skin graft. So we'll see how our patient do. We didn't do the skin graft. We just did the lateral tarsal strip. And you can also help it with the SOOF lift, because then the SOOF brings some of the skin from the lower eyelid. SOOF lift is suborbicularis oculi fat, so you go all the way and bring the cheek up. You also can combine it with mid-face lift to avoid giving them a skin graft. So the mid-face lift is to make the incision longer, go to the periosteum, go all the way down here, cut the periosteum from underneath in the nasolabial fold, and lift the whole cheek up to give them that defect of the anterior lamella. So that's a more complicated and more difficult cases to fix, but these are what we worked on. Any questions?
Mm-mm.
Thank you.
Thank you.